welcome to episode 4 of our Tea Time Chats. I have 2 lovely guests with us today. Sat next to me is Sheela Hagan, who is a facilitator and teacher of spiritual development, also a channel like myself and a medium. And Jessica, would you like to introduce Ildiko?
Yes, and this is Ildiko Skur, and she is a top international trainer of thought field therapy and the founder of
Life Retuning.
Life Retuning.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fabulous. Can you tell us something about Life Retuning?
Yes, sure, Magenta. It's basically based on the energy psychology, which is called thought field therapy, which is a very rapid way of switching off negative emotions in the system, and has been around for about 30 years. It was developed by a clinical psychologist called Dr. Roger Callahan, and I've been in private practice with that for about 9 years, but I've actually developed beyond thought field therapy because I use the chakras and the auric fields to actually find the coordinates of a problem that the mind has created, and then very, very rapidly just retune the whole system so that your beautiful life song is playing and you've got no blocks in the energy fields. That's really what I do.
That makes sense. When I first saw you, and then have spoken to me a lot about these people that have unique templates, and what they're doing is the same modality or field as many people, as in say healing or spiritual development or whatever, but they've created their own unique template. It's done in their style, and I could see that with you. Some people are forming it, and with you I could tell this is a fully formed unique template that you're in, and that is the same with you. So
yeah, I think we all take from past experiences, don't we? I think that's where we come from, and when you're attuned, you can look back over your life, can't you, and all the different things that have happened to you all through your life has all got you to here, to do that very thing that you're just about to do.
Yeah.
absolutely.
So it's just you know, and so I think we're all unique in our way of presenting, or we should be. You know, it's we're moving towards that uniqueness.
Oh yeah, everyone has that unique template.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of people haven't found it. Perhaps if they're in mainstream jobs, then they're sort of following perhaps what I would call the old energy system, but there's a lot of people still there. So it feels new, the people that are with the unique template, but of course it's an ancient model that we're sort of going back to, aren't we? So it's so lovely to have you both here today.
Thank you.
On our Tea Time
Thanks
Chats.
for inviting us.
Have you seen any of them already up on
Yes.
YouTube?
Yes.
It's a great idea. It's an absolutely fantastic idea. I was so excited when you first told me about it, because I could see it all playing out in my mind. It was lovely.
It's been really good fun, and I love doing them. We've had some very positive feedback from people.
I'm sure, and that's great, because obviously you are providing brilliant service for people out there who like to sit in, and it's almost like they're actually here in the room, I should imagine.
Yeah, that's what we want.
Yeah, well, you have a lot of stuff going around in your head, don't you? A lot of questions, and because I was going to ask you, Ildiko, how you actually started out. How did you actually get into all of this?
Yes. Kicked or dragged kicking and screaming into it, basically. As many of us, I suppose, you know, coming from a very orthodox background. I actually trained to be a textile designer, which had nothing to do with the esoteric and spiritual side of things. But I went through a very, very bad period. I had a breakdown, and everything was literally broken down in my system. Thoughts, ideas. I had a lot of panic attacks, and I had to address that suffering and that pain, because there was no other way. I had to find an answer. So for about 5 years I was stuck in this very, very dark place where I didn't really think I had a hope that I would come out of it. And it really taught me a lot, because I obviously realised that I was not in alignment, and my life song was definitely playing bum notes, you know, it was just not good. So after about 6 years I finally discovered thought field therapy, which really saved my life and my sanity. I qualified to be a practitioner, and then I started using this unique, amazing energy psychology, which switches off emotions within minutes. It's unlike anything else I've ever experienced. But over time I started realising that the chakras play a complete part with our emotions. They will go in and out of alignment with high levels of trauma, for instance, and they do this regularly throughout the day. And also the auric fields, there are about 8 auric fields I work with, and depending where an issue is held in the auric layer, puts it into context of the person's life, how things are actually happening to them. So it gives me a huge amount of information, healing data that I can work with immediately, and it zeroes in. It's like a roadmap to healing. So it really was based on the thought field therapy that I experienced myself, and also saw clients coming through some terrible stuff, and you know, amazing, miraculous. But I just built it out over the last 3 or 4 years.
It's really interesting then, isn't it? So you've actually started out, like probably a lot of people, through the trauma, through the pain, through whatever the early experiences are, and there's so many people out there that are talking about, you know, or they're writing them, aren't they, in books. There's so many books. There's some of the obvious people like Louise Hay, back in the 80s. She was and still is quite an amazing lady, isn't she, who had a tumour and healed it. And there's lots of other people like Brandon Bays, and
that's right.
And everybody's coming out with their journey and finding their path, which is amazing. And now from that, you're taking it to another level and actually bringing in
sort of like being an internal alchemist, if you like. I'm changing all the dross into this gold that's now coming to be in this healing system. The people are, you know, starting to train, and they're loving it. They're getting such amazing results from it. So it's taking it onto another level, which is brilliant. But I think you're right, Jessica, because you know, you only grow through pain, really, don't you? Because if you're feeling happy, you're not going to move anywhere. You're happy to stay where you are. But if you're getting a kick by life and it's not pleasant, then that actually motivates you to do something to change your life, doesn't it?
Yeah, quite interesting. I was saying to you, Sheela, wasn't I, when you came in, you know, how long have you been here, housewives? And I was explaining and saying that hadn't been for,
absolutely.
you know, it's one of those experiences that it wasn't quite what I was looking for, but I knew I had to take it, but I couldn't understand why. And it was, you know, not enough space, and then that took me to another place, which obviously then took me to destiny.
It's when we're outside of our comfort zone, isn't it?
Absolutely.
We really have to sort of open our eyes and look around us.
That's
and see
what
we need to do.
Outside our comfort zone.
Like you say, learn and move on.
And this transformation is part of the journey, isn't it? It seems to be that if we are to be sort of moved into a place or guided into a place or find our destiny, however you want to put it, we seem to need to go through these issues ourselves at first and experience them all before we can actually turn around and teach them to others. Because like you say, if we were just in a state of comfort when we were young, and we could stay there, we probably would not do a lot just think this is nice.
That's right.
And it is the pain.
Yes,
and so many people, health issue, emotional issue, relationships breakdown, bereavements, all sorts.
Or all three.
Or all three at the same time, like 3 buses coming at once.
Exactly. Divorce, illness at the same time, and all sorts. And I can relate to that as well. You know, it's not something I've talked about too much, but I've had, you know, health scares, more than one at the same time, and then you I talk about this a lot actually. You get to the point with health where you either delegate it to someone else and think, right, well, I'm ill, you're a doctor, fix me, and let's face it, that never really works. No offence to doctors, but it's the mindset of, I'm ill, what are you going to do about it? That never works.
Disempowering,
it's disempowering, it's not
It's another aspect of us taking responsibility for our own lives, isn't it? As well as our own health and our own thoughts and where we are in the world.
In fact, that brings me to, I wasn't going to get straight into questions yet, but that question is related to what we're talking about. So I might address this to you actually first of all, and then everyone, because obviously you're more in the health practitioner. But it's all the same thing, really. I mean, you need to be psychic and intuitive with your work in order to obviously see the auric field and the chakras. Yeah. So it's all.
Well, I actually read it. I literally read the energy field. I don't really, to be honest, use intuition. What I'm reading is I'm like a data reader of a computer. Yeah. That's how I do it, and I use the diagnostic tools to actually get a yes or a no about things.
Like
And that opens
kinesiology,
everything.
is it?
It's based on kinesiology.
So it's
that's
the
right.
body,
Yeah.
the energy of the body.
Yeah, and the auric fields and the chakras.
Yeah.
So I just bring it right out into the whole energy field.
See,
Yeah.
to me though, that's still intuition.
Yes,
It's-
you're right. In a
Yeah,
way, yes,
I know what you
that's
mean.
it,
It's
yeah.
different, but
Yes.
it's the because the intuition is like a little computer that's fine tuning energy, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
It's like the scientific and the spiritual
The
approach.
scientific,
It's
yes.
basically
Yes.
Usually get to the same end result, but it's just
That's
it's
right.
just different ways.
Different
so
way.
Yes.
it's
The
the way
different
that
routes,
different
yes.
perception.
And the way that works is to mix the two.
Oh yes. very
It's the
much so.
science and the spirituality. With a
Mm.
question which I'll direct to you actually, because it's a great question. Thank you for the person who sent this in. What does an awakened person on the spiritual path of light do if they are confronted with a disease or illness that requires medication from the doctor? And what do those people do when they don't think they need their medication anymore and then they stop taking it?
Yes, well, the way I would work with physical issues or illnesses, obviously, straight away I want to say that I don't say I ever cure anything at all physical, because that is the medical profession's domain. But what I do is I trace back the energetic pathways that have created that illness, because what happens is that the aura holds many different layers of vibrational frequency of energy. Now, on the outside of that aura, it's very, very high vibration, which we as human beings can't actually even feel. We can't even access. But halfway along, you get the astral layer where these high vibrational frequencies step down to be able to be assimilated by us emotionally, or mentally, emotionally, and finally physically. So you can see this progression in of energy. And if you have something that's an aberration there, that is a negative emotion or a negative mindset, eventually the vibrational frequency will become physical. And we were mentioning, you mentioned Jessica Louise Hay. Now she has a whole directory of mindsets associated with illness, how they will finally create it. Now I find this is true because I find the self-limiting belief or the emotion in the auric layer, and I will switch that off. And what happens is then the physical suddenly changes as well, because there's no route through anymore. And that's how I would work. That's how I would work with all physical issues. When it comes to medication, I would say always go back to the doctor and ask the doctor's opinion, because they prescribe you the medication, therefore they will know how you can reduce the dose or come off it, but always work in conjunction with your doctor. I would never give any advice about medication at all, because it's not my realm and I'm not qualified in that.
I feel the same. I've spoken to people who are on medication, and I would never say come off your medication, because
No,
A,
never.
we're not really allowed to say that anyway, and we can be in
Exactly.
trouble if we do.
That's right.
And also, as you say, it's not our realm. We are working in health, but you know,
Well,
medication's
If I
different.
can
What about-
interject there, you've actually hit it on the head, because we're working in health. We're not working in disease.
No,
That's
no.
right.
And so that's
Yes.
not our remit,
That's
isn't
almost
it?
just yeah.
We
Yeah.
are actually looking at health,
Yeah.
not disease.
Mm.
In
That's
fact,
right.
you know, in England, of course, we have the National Health Service, and I always say it's not really a very good description of what it is, because it's actually a national disease
Yes.
service.
And you're right.
And so, you know, the medical profession here aren't interested if you're well. They're only going to step in if you have disease.
That's
So
right.
we're
Yes.
coming from a different perspective
Yes.
altogether.
I
really.
thought it's very interesting. I heard that in China, what they do
Yes.
is
You're right.
the doctors.
What were you going to say?
Yes, they only get paid.
They only
if,
get paid
it's,
if
the
you're-
person's well.
Yeah, they
Or,
only get paid for wellness.
Yes, that's
and
right.
if you fall ill,
Yeah,
your doctor, no payment.
that's right. Yes.
So it's in their
And it's
interest
wonderful.
to actually keep you well.
So that's a better
It's actually,
system.
if you
Yeah.
look at the law of attraction, actually that is the right way, the right approach. Because if you're focusing on disease all the time, you're going to generate more disease. You're going to attract it.
Absolutely. What you focus on, you get more of.
That's
so,
right.
yeah.
I think just a quote from the Secret, which really resonated with me. Mother Teresa was always invited to anti-war campaigns, and she never went to one. She said, invite me to a pro-peace campaign and I will come.
Yes.
And she understood energy. She
Yes.
understood energy and how it works. Yeah.
But that's not to say people can't come off medication, but I feel it really needs to be their decision, and they need to make that decision, as we were saying about empowering yourself and making that decision in conjunction with advice from your clairvoyant or your TFT practitioner and your doctor, and make the decision yourself. I know somebody who has quite severe asthma and has had for many years, an adult, and he just decided 2 months ago, and he was taking the Ventolin inhaler regularly every day and every night, probably several times in the night and several times in the day, every day. And he just decided one day, after speaking to Jessica actually, that he, well, with you talking about intention and making the decision, he just decided, do you know what, I don't want asthma anymore, and I'm not going to take my inhaler anymore. So I was a bit concerned, thinking, well, you know, I think maybe weaning yourself off a medication is better than just stopping it. But what he did was he used an astral inhaler instead. So he would just go like this and take the inhaler, and he hasn't used his inhaler now for 2 months. And it's funny, I found this book on, I think it was written by Deepak Chopra, it might not have been, but somebody like that, I think it was him, saying about these trials that they did on all these different illnesses, and one of them was asthma, and they did a double-blind study where half the people were given a proper Ventolin inhaler, and the other half were just given like a water, but the feel and the flavour of the inhaler was the same, so that the people couldn't tell the difference, and all the people reduced the asthma and the tightness in the chest, even those using the placebo.
So yes, there are many studies about this, aren't there?
Yeah, I was going to say, Sheela, how would you describe what Magenta's talking about there?
Well, it's well known, it's called the placebo effect. And really it comes back to how we believe dis-ease is mental, physical, spiritual, emotional. It's not just the physical body, it's not just this, it's not just that, it's the whole of us, isn't it? And where we come from, the way we're looking at things, of course, we're looking at the whole body, the whole mind, the whole spirit, as a whole person, and not sort of dissecting it. So yes, the placebo is really about cosmic ordering, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's believing. If you have faith and you believe.
And yet it's dismissed, isn't it? The doctors will be, that's just the placebo effect.
Yes.
And I think, well, the placebo effect must be the most powerful thing we have.
The placebo effect, we all use the placebo effect every single day, in fact. We believe, it's our belief system, isn't it? And if we believe, for example, that the sun's going to shine in the morning and then tomorrow is going to be a whole new day, we actually do believe that, or we would never go to sleep.
Yes.
Imagine going to sleep and not knowing whether you were going to, actually there was going to be a new day. So we believe that so well, we believe in that belief, because it is only a belief. We don't know the sun's going to come out tomorrow.
That's true.
And we believe
Not in
it's
England.
that's true. But we go to bed happily and we go to sleep happily, knowing, believing.
I mean,
And
that's
I
how
think
we're
that's
creating the ascension process, isn't it? Let's face it, through our
It does actually beg the question whether anything that anybody ever takes actually is really the thing that works, or whether it's your mind.
Absolutely.
So
Indeed.
very intriguing.
Do we really need to know?
Well,
as long as it's that too, yes.
Same double-blind study. This woman had had depression for 30 years, and they did the same thing with an antidepressant. I think it was Prozac, and half of them had the sugar pill placebo, and half of them had the real one. And this one particular woman, she actually had side effects. Listed, all the side effects may be nausea, headaches, and blah blah blah. She had them all, so she thought, I know I'm on the real one. And it cured her after 30 years of depression. And when they all went back 2 years ago, it was a long trial, went back, and the doctor told her, I'm about to tell you, you know, if it was the real one. Or she was, well, I know I was on the real one because I had all the side effects. And he said, no, you were on the placebo. And she wouldn't believe him. He had to actually prove that she was on the placebo. And she was cured. And the side effects and everything, the whole thing. So this is the power of the
It
mind.
really is. And this is what I was mentioning before, that the most important thing for the mind is to be right. So she believed that she was right, and therefore she was right.
And she believed that you could possibly get these symptoms,
That's right,
and then verified the fact, you know.
Amazing.
simply quite amazing.
Following on though, I mean, for example, if you're healing yourself and you choose a modality, whether it's TFT or massage or nutrition, and you truly believe with all the studies that you've done that it's going to make you well, and it does, A, is that the modality, or is it the belief, or a combination of the two? And how do you raise your belief to something that's beyond what you believe? And what I'm getting at here is, for me, I've healed myself of a serious pre-cancer. I was told I'd have full-blown cancer within a year if I didn't have an operation, and I refused, and I went for 2 years doing all the study and talking to the nine and meditation, and I eventually, after 2 years, got the all clear, and I now have the all clear, which is great. I have clients who've done the same thing. I'm not going to say cure, because I don't think we're allowed to, are we? So, remission of symptoms permanently, and also an energy issue I have, which has been there since I was 18, that's similar to ME, MS, but there's no diagnosis, and that is also 95% I'm symptom free with that.
Wonderful.
But my belief is the consciousness and the nutrition, and if I do lapse with my nutrition, which I do sometimes, I can often have a little bit of a relapse of these symptoms, whereas Jess is able to eat more or less anything she wants and stay very healthy. So is it that I've got it right that the nutrition is part of it and you really shouldn't be eating junk food? Or can I raise my belief system to a point where I can believe I can eat anything I want and be well when I don't believe that?
Well, you've got, so I would imagine you've got some self-limiting beliefs embedded in your auric field that can actually be retuned, so that your perception would be completely different. I find people go from I can't do place to I really want to do this within minutes with what I do.
Oh, but I don't want to do it. Is that the issue?
Because
my self-limiting beliefs, if you like, have come from the nine when I've asked them about nutrition, and they show me about the ancient original people and what the human being is designed to eat, and when they talk about the alkaline system of the body and the low glycemic index, and how the refined chemicals in foods have been distorted away from the food's original, and then that can create blockages in the body. Because I believe and know what the nine have shown me, and my own study backs it up, then it's almost as though I can't go outside of that and eat a cream bun and a massive portion of chips with loads of salt on and stay healthy. So is it the food? Is it, or that's what I'm kind of getting.
It's kind of, yes, I do know what you mean, but you've explained that so strongly that we all know that is your belief. So if you ate cream cake and a load of chips, you would be ill. Whereas as you can see, cream cakes have no effect on me whatsoever, apart from extra weight.
Because you've got a belief going on there that
I absolutely totally believe in my mind.
Yeah.
Is what needs to be healthy, and my body will follow.
How about you as a health practitioner? Can you eat cream cakes, refined sugar, crisps, chips?
No, I actually have several what are called energy toxins, which are incompatible with my energy field, so they create issues like anxiety. So I can't eat things like wheat and dairy, eggs, but also I actually believe, because I've started doing research into this, that when we suffer a trauma, it's a bad experience, the mind actually recognises or remembers everything about that incident, including what we were eating, inhaling, drinking, and I believe that actually adds to why it becomes an energy toxin. So you can undo it, I believe. That's what I'm going to start looking into.
Well, very interesting actually, because I'll just chuck this one out there. When I was born, obviously unbeknown to my mother, the doctors and everyone else, I didn't keep a thing down for years. I literally, because I was on bottle, I think I was breastfed for a short time, and then my mum had problems with that, so literally I was given milk. Now I don't like milk, I never have, so I choose not to drink it most of the time, but I can drink it. But I set an intention, to answer your question, that it's okay for me to drink it. But basically, as a baby and right the way through to, I don't know how old I was, but I think it was about 4, I couldn't keep anything down. I was really, really ill. Now I'm completely the opposite now, completely, and I will set an intention that if I mean, not consciously, because there's not much that does affect me, because but somewhere along the line, and I don't know where, but quite interestingly enough, because you were saying, you know, further back down the line there's somewhere, at some point I obviously reversed all of that, and now I can drink milk, there's nothing I don't eat, and if I can be ill, and I had a cold for the first time in years, but I'm usually consciously aware that I'm allowing something to release.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's my answer to that, but quite interesting, isn't it? How I can go from being born and being really to completely the opposite.
Yes, absolutely.
So somewhere along that journey,
that's right.
I changed my belief.
Yes,
I consciously don't remember it.
Because I've done the opposite. As a child, I was healthy, fit, you know, and ate the most awful things. I mean, really, you know, I mean, I just ate anything I want. I would eat sweets every day, crisps, white bread, plastered with ketchup and daddy's sauce all over.
So you're from a therapy point of view,
completely
you're
opposite.
actually an easy person to because you can track track where it actually where the change happened and then take you back before
I
that.
can.
From
and
an NLP
with
point
me,
of
it was
view.
when I started taking the contraceptive pill. And there was obviously hormonal energy, and that's I had a stroke within 2 months of starting the pill. That's what triggered this multiple sclerosis ME type energy issue that I have. It's really a unique thing to me, caused by a stroke. I lost the use of the left side, was paralysed, and I was in hospital. I was 18. What I'd done was I'd forgotten my pill the day before. 4 months I'd been on the pill for. I forgot it the day before, woke up the next morning after a night of heavy drinking and took 2 pills. Wow. And within seconds there was this click in my head and everything went dizzy and I fell against the wall, and then slowly the left side became paralysed. I was in hospital. So since then, everything switched. Now again, obviously that was the pill, because I didn't have any belief whatsoever that it would harm me on any conscious level anyway.
I am actually picking up
Here we
with
go.
your system. It is still in your system as a toxin, it's an energy toxin, and that can be retuned and cleared, because obviously you're not you're not in that space anymore, but I can actually clear that out and see what happens, because sometimes you can hold toxins in your system for years, especially things like anaesthetics. I found a guy who's 26, he actually had an operation when he was 3, and it was still in his energy field, that toxic effect, and so I neutralised it for him, and he said that it was almost like his head had cleared, like somebody had taken the blindfold off him. It was amazing. So, you can hold these things for years.
That's really interesting. What I'm getting from the 9 here is, I don't know if you have any clients who will speak directly from the higher self when you're treating them, but often the 9 will come in even with the doctor, and I have to try and sort of channel while I'm sat in front of the GP and without him knowing. But what the 9 would say is, we have allowed this toxin or a certain percentage of it to remain in order for the teachings to be delivered through that learning.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Makes sense, absolutely.
But maybe now it's time for it to go.
Well, I think it is, and I say what I do is fast emotional dumping, because you haven't got time to analyse your navel anymore. You just got to get rid of it, because we've got to raise our vibrational frequencies, and I find that with what I do, it goes so quickly you don't even need to know what it is. So it's time for this.
And that is the new energy. I don't know if you're getting the same thing as in the way we worked as clairvoyants in the past would be quite analytical, as in it's this past life or that part, but now it doesn't matter what it is anymore, because the vibrational situation has changed.
It's really about stepping into the new vibration, isn't it?
Yeah.
And in a physical way, and an emotional way, and a spiritual way. And I often use that phrase with clients, because they can then sort of analyse themselves from here as opposed to where they were. That was in the old thinking. Now I'm in the new thinking. And it helps them to make that transition in their way, within their control.
How did you get into this then? I mean, is this something that's been with you since very young?
It's sort of 2 levels really. When I was a small child, one of my earliest recollections